I love being able to celebrate our seniors, celebrate the next generation. I am so glad that God is not done with working through every generation. That every generation has a chance to encounter God and to bring God forward and just to really release his power through their lives. And I want to thank you again just for all those that attended last Sunday afternoon. We had our graduation celebration for those for the foster care system. And one of the things that we've heard over and over again, in fact, the social workers told us again this last week, it isn't about the money that's given to these students or the gifts. It really is about the people who show up and speak into their lives and just encourage them and come next to them. They've said over every year that the amount of these students rarely have positive social interactions with adults who believe in them. And so thank you for all those that came and just invested in them and just believed in them. I love it for being able to invest and believe in our seniors here and all the things that we do. This is graduation time of year, right? Whether it's kindergarten graduation, and there's nothing cuter than kindergartners and the little graduation stuff. Kindergarten graduation or middle school, or everybody graduates. Here you go. I think over the years, partly because I've had an addiction to education. I have sat through over 30 graduation ceremonies. When I was in education, I'd get my cap and gown and sit through. And one of the things you're going to know, whenever there's a graduation speech, at some point, somebody's going to get up and say, it is time for you to live out your greatest dreams. At some point, even this weekend, I know somewhere in this region where we live, somebody is going to quote Dr. Seuss from Oh, the Places You'll Go. At some point, someone's going to get up and say, kids, you'll move mountains. Today is your day. Your mountain is waiting, so get on your way. And you will succeed. Yes, you will indeed. 98.75% guaranteed. You know, like somebody's going to get up and speak. But one of the things that I've never heard, right? I've been a part of many graduation ceremonies. I have never heard anyone get up and just go, welcome to the grind. Good luck to you. It just goes downhill from here, right? Like nobody gets to a graduation ceremony and says that, because it's like, no, this is the time to engage and to be excited. And because nobody shows up to the starting line of your life and goes, sign me up for the boring life. I think I want the boring life. I think that's the life I want. Give me as boring of life as possible. And yet sometimes we settle into routines. Right? We don't start off by holding babies and we get dreaming about all the things that they're going to do, and we walk them to kindergarten. We're excited about all the things that they're going to do, and graduation ceremonies. But some point, too many of us, and I think so many in our world today, life settles into a routine. You get bored, you get frustrated. When I was in college, my summer job was working in a factory. And part of my factory job was a factory job. It was not a real exciting. It was a small one. It wasn't well lit. Didn't have great ventilation. And I worked with several guys who their routine in life was get up for the first shift, go to work, get off shift, go to the bar, go home from the bar, go to sleep, get up the next day and do the next thing. That was their life. That was their routine. And it wasn't just the job that caused them to live that way, because there were several guys that I worked with that were life-giving. Like, man, they were just awesome to be around. They brought encouragement and all those things that you want, people that you want to be around. But I think what it comes down to is each of us has to understand and wrestle with, what is our purpose? Or what is our reason for being? I'm convinced the problem in our nation right now, more than anything else, is we have lost a sense of purpose and have lost the sense of offering a challenge to the next generation. We've just lost our way. We've forgotten what our purpose is. We're told over and over again, your purpose in life is to be happy. And when you're told that your purpose in life is to be happy, what happens? We overindulge on things that make us happy. And we become overindulgent on downtime. Or what are we scrolling through? What games are we playing? What things are we watching? We're looking for things that give us a sense of, oh, it's me time. And how much of things that people say, oh, no, you got to do self-care. And most self-care is just overindulgent wasting. Right? We're told as well, your feelings are your truth. Now, your feelings are your truth. And what ends up happening is we end up mistaking personal pain for identity and destiny. That if I went through something difficult, then that's my identity, that's my purpose. I can't shake it. This is who I am. It's marked me. And we're told that you should have it all. And we're seeing this, and I especially saw this in bigger cities because it's so hard to make this transition from you should have it all to, hey, you graduate, now you're on your own. And you have to fight against all the systems. And as soon as we hit one setback, we just have so many people that don't have any resiliency. You set one setback and we get angry and we wait for somebody else to do something for us. And one of the things that I think it's important for us, and I'm going to ask my question for you today, is are you living a great life-altering adventure? Are you living an adventure? Is every day a greater challenge than the day before? Last week we started, over the summer, we're just going to go on a journey with Jesus. That's our goal for the summer. We're just going to go on a journey with Jesus. Every week we're just going to talk about Jesus. And we're going to use John's letter as the guide to talk about Jesus. And one of the things that John, we talked about last week, if you weren't here, I really encourage you to go listen to the message. But John starts off writing his letter and he says, hey, listen, I'm going to tell you a lot of things about when I lived with Jesus, but you need to understand, I lived with Jesus, I followed Jesus, I walked with Jesus, I was with him at the cross, I went and saw his tomb, I was with his mother lived with me, I had been through him for decades and decades, been a part of him. And then when I tell you about the short years that he was alive with us here on the earth, I need to tell you, and I'm going to spoil the ending, that don't you dare underestimate these simple encounters and think that he is just a nice teacher and a good man. He said, no. He is the Word of God. He is the source of life. He is everything. In John chapter 1, verse 16, we're going to jump back into John chapter 1 today. It says, from his abundance, we have all received one gracious blessing after another. John would not have come to the conclusions in the beginning of his letter if Jesus was just a nice guy. He would not have come to those conclusions if he thought that Jesus just told him, you deserve to be happy. You deserve to be happy. That doesn't translate to what John wrote. If the disciples, they would not, remember, John was the only disciple that did not give his life. He was not a martyr. All the other disciples were martyrs. They gave their lives for the sake of Jesus. And they would not have given their lives if Jesus had just told them, your truth is your destiny. Your pain is your reality. No, they were willing to lay down their lives for the sake of a greater purpose. There would not have been the transformation we've seen in every culture throughout history if Jesus just said, get up and be mad and angry at the man with power. All right? Jesus calls you and I to live a great adventure. That's what we're called to live. We're not called to live a boring, ordinary life. We are called to live a great adventure. Following Jesus, we talked about last week, how secular humanist atheists have recognized that those who follow Jesus are the ones who have brought human rights to the entire world. That those who follow Jesus are the ones that cherish life and protect it. We have missionaries willing to go to places that are hard to reach places, people that have never met and encountered Jesus, to give their lives for the sake of the good news of Jesus. I love that even today in Palestine, there are the Palestinian church, those who follow Jesus, who embrace Jesus, willing to put their lives on the line day in and day out, meeting many times in secret. But the church is growing daily. I think many of those people, and John would look at many people, especially in the United States, who claim to be followers of Jesus and go, I don't recognize you. I don't recognize this life that you live. Where we live in a culture where if you're willing to attend a church, listen to some Christian music and be a part of a crowd, that you're a follower of Jesus. And John would say, where's the adventure in that? Where's the excitement in that? So John, in the second part of chapter 1, he just starts talking about different encounters with Jesus. And he doesn't start talking about Jesus until Jesus hits 30 years of age. And we'll see why here in a second. And he starts with an encounter with John the Baptist. We're not going to get deep into this, but verse 36, it says, as Jesus walked by, John, meaning John the Baptist, not John the guy who wrote this letter, John the Baptist looked at him and declared, look, there is the Lamb of God. When John the Baptist, again, 2 disciples heard this, they followed Jesus. Jesus looked around and saw them. What do you want? He asked them. They replied, Rabbi, which means teacher, where are you staying? In this first chapter of John, it's interesting. There's 7 different titles that are given to Jesus. Jesus is given these different titles, and people are trying to label Jesus and put a title on Jesus. And one of the titles is listed here as rabbi. Now, historically, we understand that rabbi means somebody who is a teacher of the Torah. Somebody who is able to communicate the Torah. They were considered a sage, would be another word that was often used for them in the time of Jesus. They were a sage. This was an era of incredible study. It wasn't until about 30, 40 years after Jesus where a lot of things that we understand about rabbinical dynamics today were formalized. They were kind of formalized after Jesus was here on earth, but there were still a lot of things that were in play in this concept. You see, rabbis or sages and teachers of the Torah, they weren't able to begin their ministry, their teaching, until they hit the age of 30. But at the age of 30, they were allowed to begin to teach in the local synagogues. And as they would present in the synagogue, they would present their yoke. And their yoke was considered their teaching, their interpretation of the Torah. And you've heard scripture, she said, my yoke, take my yoke upon you. Right? Take my teaching, my understanding, my framework of following God, of understanding God's word. And as they would present, young men in their teens and late teens, mid-teens, late teens, would come and ask if they could join them, if they could become a follower of them, in a sense, kind of a discipler. Now, when they would ask this, they weren't just learning about content. They didn't come to him and say, I want to sit and I want to learn about how you read Hebrew words. I want to listen and understand how you memorize things. That wasn't what they were asking. What they were asking is, I want to become like you. To be a follower of a rabbi meant to become like the rabbi. It was an all-in. You didn't just go to class once in a while. You lived with the rabbi. You spent all your time with your rabbi. And they weren't just learning content. In fact, there was a blessing that sometimes people would give. It said, may you be covered with the dust of your rabbi's feet. May you be covered with the dust of their feet, meaning may you be so close to them that anything that they kick up in their life, that they're a part of their life, may it just cover you as well. May their life be on you. May you be all in and covered with the fullness of your rabbi's life. So 2 of John the Baptist's disciples, they were looking at John as kind of, hey, they want to encounter John. But John was like, no, don't look at me. I want you to see Jesus even greater. And so they had a choice, and I think it's the same choice you and I have today. How will you respond to Jesus? As we take this journey even throughout the summer, how will you respond to Jesus? We're going to talk about today just a few people that encounter Jesus. That's what John kind of sets up in this first chapter, people who encounter Jesus. And I want you to ask yourself, how would you respond? Because if John is who he says he is, as we said last week, the only response we really have is to humbly submit to him. John isn't just saying, hey, following Jesus, because we hear following Jesus, we hear like following someone on social media. This is so different than just following someone on social media. We get all the time, we have people, Christy's posts on Facebook, and over the years we've had things on Facebook, and we'll run into friends we haven't seen in years. They live in other parts of the country, and they're like, oh yeah, we've been following your journey. We've been following with the boys. We've been following with what's happening at your church. Everything looks like it's great, because online you get a snapshot and everything looks good. And I'm like, oh yeah, that must have been challenging. I'm like, you have no idea what my life is like. You have zero idea what my day-to-day life is like. What in between those moments, those are just snapshots. And what we're talking about following Jesus today, we're not talking about snapshots. We're not talking about moments. We're not talking about, I like that one. I like this piece of what Jesus did. Oh, I like this piece of what Jesus did. This is so much more significant. Following Jesus involves more. In fact, Jesus says, if you're going to follow me, there's several things. He asked these guys in verse 36. He said, okay, come and see. And as we walk through John, you're going to see that Jesus will challenge the way people see over and over and over again. That people see things, you're going to hear him say that. What do you see? What do you see? What do you see? What do you see? And what he's going to show them is, I don't want you to just see the physical. I need you to see the spiritual. And he goes to the woman at the well, and she's like, hey, you must be thirsty. You need water. And he's like, I have water. If you drink from it, you'll never thirst again. How can you give me that water? You don't have a bucket. And he's like, no, you're not seeing what I need you to see. He says, I need you to eat of my flesh and drink of my blood. And people are like, oh, that's kind of weird, freaking out about that. And he goes, no, you need to see the spiritual reality. If you choose to follow Jesus, you need to understand that Jesus will open your eyes so you can see spiritual realities. If this world is all that there is, if all that we have is in this world is just this sense of just today, then I'll tell you, I'll be with everybody else. Live for the moment. Live for what you enjoy. If you like game, if you like scrolling, if you want to live for pleasure, live for pleasure. If you want to have your needs met and fulfilled to the fullest extent, just do it. But once you begin to see beyond the physical, you begin to realize that there's more to life than just the physical realities, that the spiritual realities, you will begin to see divine purpose in everything. All right, last week we talked about even the world that we live in. It's teeming with life. Do we see it that this was created for purpose, on purpose? That part of that purpose that Jesus is saying, if you follow me, you will see much more than what you see now. Sin is the one thing that broke our spiritual sight. Because of sin in this world, we can't see spiritually. Why is there so many things in this world that you're just like, why can't you see that? Because sin has blinded us. Until we come to Jesus, he restores that spiritual sight. He gives us purpose. He helps us see the dignity in other people. And you will start to see even purpose beyond your pain, purpose beyond your desires, and you will see things that fit together that are beyond you. In verse 41, another encounter, Jesus says, Andrew went to find his brother Simon, told him, we have found the Messiah, which means Christ or anointed one. Then Andrew brought Simon to meet Jesus, and Jesus, looking intently at Simon, said, your name is Simon, son of John, but you'll be called Cephas, which means Peter. I think that this is so much more than just giving someone a cute little nickname and playful banter. Anybody work with somebody who just gives nicknames left and right? Like they got a nickname for everybody. And they got this nickname and that nickname. I've got a friend who's gifted at remembering names. Like he speaks all over the country, and you're always amazed. Like, how do you remember that person's name? He goes, I give everybody a nickname. Oh, what nickname did you give me? I ain't telling you. Because you aren't going to like it, right? He's like, you're not going to like the nickname I give you, but I'm giving you a nickname so I can remember you. And this is so much more than Jesus just giving Peter a nickname. You're going to see throughout this summer, throughout this story, that Jesus alone has the raw authority to do a lot more than just place a label on you. Jesus, when you follow him, will change your identity. He'll change your identity. He's not just looking for people who have learned cute verses or sing cute songs. He's not even looking for people who say, here's the label Christian on me. He's not looking for labels. Following Jesus is finding your identity in your master. It's finding your identity in the one who calls you to follow him. In fact, the phrase that we're going to see is will you call him Lord? Will you call him Lord? If walking so close to him that his dust becomes your dust, that whatever he says, he has full authority to speak into your life. Jackie Hill Perry, just a gifted communicator. I love how Jesus has encountered her and changed her life. She wrote a book called Gay Girl, Good God. And in the book, and every time you hear her speak, she'll talk about how over years her desires and the labels that people placed upon her started creating an identity in her. She was like, well, if this is the identity that everyone's going to label me, if that my desires are leading me to, then I guess I need to follow through on those actions and follow through on what my identity is and what my attractions are and what my other people have placed on me as a label. But she began to realize that this wasn't just about sexual attraction issues. Really, her identity was bound up in fulfilling needs and desires that she wanted to meet in herself. And my identity here, she's like my identity was in meeting my needs. My identity was in fulfilling my desires. Then she has this encounter with Jesus. And then she has this encounter with Jesus. He decides to just speak into her life. She just like falls in love with Jesus. She just wants to follow Jesus. And she starts getting confused. What should I do? Because everyone tells me I need to change. And she's like, I just don't know what to do in this. And Jesus just says, I didn't call you to follow me and tell you to change. I just want you to follow me. I want you. He started learning this phrase. Seek Jesus, not change. Because if you just want to change, all you're going to do is focus on all the things in your life that keep you bound up. You just look at those things over and over and over again. But when you open your eyes and you see Jesus, and you look at Jesus, he is the one that starts changing your identity, keeping you in every aspect. If you're struggling with anger issues in your life, or it's not just, I'm going to fix my anger, I'm going to fix my anger. If you're struggling in your marriage, I'm going to fix my marriage, I got to fix my marriage. No. If you're confused about what to do in your life, seek Jesus. Get close to Jesus. Let his dust cover you. Be with him. Be close to him, because he alone has the raw authority to change to transform the identity of your life. Only he has that capacity. He's not just going to stick a label on you and say, nope, here's your label. Now you're going to act this way. He changes your purpose and your identity and your future. In verse 43, another encounter. The next day, Jesus decides to go to Galilee. He found Philip and he says, come follow me. And it's interesting, in that era, usually it was the young men that would go to the rabbi and say, I want to follow you. They would go to the rabbi and they'd have to earn their way to follow a particular rabbi. But if you notice, Jesus seeks the 12 out. He seeks them out and says, come follow me. Jesus is initiating it. And Jesus, when you follow Jesus, he will call you to fully commit to him. One of the things you'll notice throughout John's letter, Jesus is not impressed by crowds. Jesus is never impressed by the crowd. In fact, a lot of times he would get the crowds upset with him on purpose. He would push on things that the crowds, because he wasn't interested in the crowd's accolades, and he wasn't interested in the attention of the crowds. There would be even some of his disciples, we'll see, they would be captivated by people of influence, and who is it that noticed Jesus? But Jesus didn't care about the attention of the crowd. Jesus just wanted to know, how committed are you at following me? How committed are you at following me? That each individual, right? Jesus is not impressed by the size of a church. There is nothing that Jesus is impressed by the size of the church. Because we talk all the time, we don't come to church, we are the church. It's those who are the church that gather in his name. That's what he's seeking. Who is it that's calling out to me? And each of us has to choose to surrender our lives, to lean in, to commit to Jesus, to have full authority in our lives. Or again, is he your Lord? Does he have authority, ultimate authority in your life? I worked with so many people over the years, and I love it when we get to that moment where sometimes there's just this click that says, oh, I've been a fan of Jesus. I've followed Jesus, but I've never he hasn't been my Lord. He hasn't made everything to me. Because see, I want to ask you, what happens if he confronts your desires? If you're just a fan, well, I can just scroll past that. Right? But if he's Lord, I have to put my desires on hold to follow him, to be with him. What happens if your life doesn't go the way you want it? Well, I don't have to like that one. But if he is Lord, I will stay close to him through the difficulties, through the pain. I'll let his dust cover me in the midst of these most difficult things that I'm going through. You got to ask, are you going to fight him? Or are you going to get angry with him? Are you going to just bypass him? Or are you willing to say, like Jesus modeled for us, and as he's in the garden, about to face death in the fullness of the cross, Father, not my will, but yours be done. Jesus is never impressed with what crowd you're in. He doesn't care what crowd you're in. He is calling you to be fully committed to him. So close that his dust is your dust. The last encounter that Jesus has with someone in this chapter is in verse 45. It says, Philip went to look for Nathanael and told him, hey, we have found the very person Moses and the prophets wrote about. His name's Jesus. Man, he's the son of Joseph from Nazareth. Nazareth, explains Nathanael. Can anything good come from Nazareth? Can anything good come from Des Moines? Come on, right? Like anything good come from Davenport? Like there's an attitude in this. there's a bias in the phrase of how he's saying this. You can definitely see it. Come see for yourself, Philip replied. And it's interesting because, right, the Bible was put together as oral tradition had been holding things together over the years. And there was something about Nathanael's encounter through the way that it was told over the years that everyone remembered. Everyone leaned into, everyone gathered. Because Nathanael had no interest in following Jesus at first. But then it says, as they approached, Jesus says to Nathanael, now, here is a genuine son of Israel, a man of complete integrity. You don't know me. That's the Pingle translation. You don't know me. How do you know about me? Jesus replied, I could see you under the fig tree before Philip found you. Then Nathanael exclaimed, Rabbi, you are the Son of God, the King of Israel. One of the things that we'll see over and over that Jesus despises is people who are hypocrites and who are not fully honest. Nathanael was fully honest. I don't think anything good can come from Nazareth. Why? I don't understand all this. The fact that Nathanael was just honest was important to Jesus. And what we're going to see is when you follow Jesus, Jesus is going to call out your hidden desires. He's going to call them out. If you're going to follow Jesus, nothing is hidden from him. Everything needs to be out in the open. Or Nathanael, a little bit of an attitude, you don't know me? What do you think you know about who I am, what I've been through, all these kind of things? You call me an integrous person. And Jesus just leans in, and there's something in what Jesus says. We don't know all the details of why Jesus says what he says, but he's leaning in, and he's like, I want you to know. I saw you in your secret place. I saw you where you're asking these questions that nobody else knows that you ever ask those questions. There was something in that response that shows that Jesus knew what he was not supposed to know. He was able to speak to the deepest, most hidden, secret places in Nathanael's life. Or most of us, when we encounter someone else, we want to present our best. We get our hair right, we wear the right clothes, and put some makeup on, and we're careful what people know about us and make sure that there's certain things people don't know about us. We don't want people to get too close because if they see this, they won't like me. They won't pay attention to me. I just need to let you know, if you're going to follow Jesus, he has access to every secret area of your life. Every desire, every want, every frustration, every confusion, everything that you have, he has access to. I first gave my life to Jesus. It was an absolute turnaround for me. I was in high school. I grew up very religious home. Grew up in parochial school, all those things, and wasn't until I had an encounter with Jesus in high school, and literally Jesus just changed my life. I went back to school, and people were like, Pingle, what the heck happened to you? Like you're a different person. And it was Jesus. So I started following Jesus and pursuing him, and it really, I was like, I do not want a boring life. I want everything. I'm all in on everything and chasing after him, and God led me to chase him to ministry. I'm going to a Christian college. I'm digging deep into his word. I'm just hungry. And about halfway through my college experience, there were two men at this particular school who were just heroes of the faith. Absolute heroes of the faith. Everybody knew who they were, knew about their lives, wanted to be like them, wanted to be close to them. And it came out within weeks of each other that both of them were having affairs. It was just devastating. And at the same time, I was going through a relationship that wasn't going in the right direction, and it was messy, and there was just junk in my own life, and there all of a sudden, all this junk was just surfacing in my life. And then about 3 weeks after that, I got word that my youth pastor who discipled me, led me to the Lord, showed me who Jesus was, walked away from ministry and walked into a lifestyle completely void from God. And I remember just going through that season going, God, if these guys can't make it, how in the world can I? If these people can't be like, these are the pillars of the church, this is church, I'm starting to see everything wrong with the church, everything wrong with leadership, and I'm just so frustrated. I'm ready to chuck it all. I'm like, this is done. I'm done. I'm done with all of this. I'm just going to finish out the semester, play the game, and I'm going to go do something else because this is ridiculous. And I'll never forget the day I'm walking home from work. I worked downtown Minneapolis, and I walked back and forth from where our campus was, and I'm walking over one of the overpasses. And that particular day, the highway was just filled with cars. And for whatever reason, I'm walking past. I've walked this route hundreds of times. Something just stops me. I start hearing the Lord just begin to whisper to my heart. And he's like, Brian, are you going to follow people or are you going to follow me? Is your life going to be in the identity of people that you follow, or are you going to be close to me? And then there's something happens spiritually, and I still can't put words to it. I can't describe it, but in that moment, the Lord opened up my eyes. And instead of seeing all these cars, I saw every spiritual heart of every person that was driving on that road. And I felt the weight that God felt towards each and every one of them. And I had a decision to make. Am I willing to follow Jesus, or am I willing to follow people? Because if I'm going to follow Jesus, there's going to be a whole lot of messy. And he starts calling out junk in my life. He starts showing me the hidden things in my life. He starts showing things where I was lying to myself, and I was playing games, and I wasn't really chasing things. And he's like, Brian, are you going to follow me, or are you going to follow people? And he's really asking me, will you be a disciple? That's what we're saying today. Jesus wanted to know for each of these people that were following, will you be a disciple of Jesus? A disciple of Jesus is someone whose life purpose is to be with, to know, and to serve Jesus above anything else. A disciple is they only want to think and feel and act in a way that points to the glory of Jesus. No matter how difficult that journey is, it is their joy to humbly surrender to him. That's what a disciple is. Or Jesus doesn't need crowds. He doesn't need you to be a part of a crowd. He doesn't want you to be a fan. He doesn't want you to be a follower. He doesn't want you to watch and just know the songs. He wants your everything. He wants everything about you. If he is who John says he is, we have one response, and that is to humbly submit to him in every part of our lives. But I'm telling you, when you do, he will take you on the wildest ride of your life. He will take you to places. He will open up your eyes. He will change your heart. He will call out your junk, and he will give a purpose to you that will cause you to stand in opposition to all the craziness that's happening in the world. People go, your life is different. Why? Because I want to be part of the greatest adventure. Jesus is calling us to be a part of the greatest adventure, that we are close to him, that he is a part of us, that we don't just attend church, but we encounter Jesus and are fully committed to him. Right? I have no desire to draw a crowd on Sundays. I have zero desire. My desire and my heartbeat is, will you say yes to following Jesus in every moment of your life? If you want to avoid the boring, predictable, ordinary life, you need to pray every day. Jesus, help me see what you're working on. Every day, Jesus, help me see the spiritual purpose in what I'm going through today. Let me see what's happening. It will change the way you see everything. The jerk that's at your job, now you see the hurt that's behind it. You see the story that's behind it. If you, instead of just going through a difficult situation, you're not just mad that you're in this situation. You go, Lord, help me to become more dependent upon you. Let me to see how this makes me dependent upon you and allows you to work through me. If you want to live a life of purpose and be beyond the ordinary and the boring and the normal things of life, you need to pray every day. Jesus, let other people see you in me. Let people see you in me today. If you get anger in your life, or if you're just stuck with lazy scrolling and you're just, hey, I'll just game for hours and hours, or I'll scroll for hours, or I'll watch for hours, or I'm dealing with addictions, or identity is telling you this is what you have to do. I'm going to tell you today, don't just seek to try to change those things and self-discipline your way out of it. Seek just to be with Jesus. Just be so with Jesus. Let other people see Jesus in me. Seek him to be as close. He's not just going to put a label on you. He's not going to put you in a box. In fact, he's going to set you free from labels. He's going to set you free from the box and allow you to chase him in that way that people can see Jesus through you. If you want to live with purpose in your life, you need to pray every day, Jesus, be my greatest passion. Commit to him fully. This is not a time to just be a fan. This is not a time to just be a follower. This is not a time just to dip your toes into Jesus a couple times a year, a few times a week. This is time to go all cannonball, baby. Boom. You just need to go in with everything that he has for him, because he wants to be your greatest passion. He deserves the glory, the power, the majesty. If he doesn't blow you away, some of you have walked with Jesus for so long that it's become ordinary and routine. That you've just walked with him and you've I've got it. I've figured out where he's going. I'm figuring out what's happening today. And you've sat down. But I'm just going to tell you, Jesus never sits. He is always moving. He is always working. He is always going to the next thing. And I'm saying it is time for some of us to wake up again and say, Jesus, I need to get so close your dust is on me. I need to be with you. I need to be hungry for you. I just want to be in your presence. I just want to see you work in my life. A couple weeks we got just coming up really quick. We got Love My City. What I love about Love My City is it's just another way of just saying, Jesus, I just want to be where you want us to be. We partner with people in our community that are doing great things in our community. We want to multiply what they're doing. We want to encourage them, what they're doing to serve other people and come alongside of them and give them a boost on that day, help them multiply the things that they're doing. And then through that we see the church, the people of God, the disciples of God working and moving and seeing people seeing the passion. There's so many other things you could do on a Saturday. But we set those things aside because my greatest passion is that people would see Jesus in me, that I can be close to him. I'm going to tell, and the last thing, if you're wanting to live a life of purpose, every day, you need to pray. Jesus, will you call out my hidden junk? Will you just call it out of me? We like to think we're all doing better than we are. And we like to think that we're impressing Jesus with how we're doing. He is not impressed with how well you're doing. He's impressed with how close and how vulnerable you are to him. It's amazing how many people I've talked with even just last couple of weeks and it's okay for you to pray. Jesus, I don't get this. This kind of sucks. I'm a little frustrated. I'm a little disappointed in this. I don't know how to get this, how to figure this out. Like Nathaniel, just being honest before Jesus, and then Jesus will read your mail. He will see the secret things in your heart. He'll know those things that are crying out. He'll call them to you. You just can't hold up just everything that's on the surface and say, I've got it all together. It's been a long time since some of you have just had a good cry in Jesus' arms. Just saying, Jesus, these things have bogged me down. They've weighed me down. I have let them become more, and I'm good at hiding them, but I know that you can be safe with Jesus. Following Jesus is a life-changing adventure. It's an absolute life-changing adventure. If it's not, can I challenge you that maybe you just haven't really started to follow him yet? Because he is calling you to see things different, to be so close to him, to be so passionate with him that you're comfortable, that he can see every part of your life and every moment that you're going with him. Let's pray.